We are officially playing Halo 1. Halo Combat Evolved. And I just realized the stream name is still called Dark Souls. So we're changing that right now. And I'm figuring out the Twitch chat. Welcome Twitch, welcome YouTube. Of course, this is going to be a legendary run, because what else would it be? Why would you play these games on anything else? I know that technically the Bungie recommended difficulty is heroic. I've heard the developers talk about that. But when you're a pro gamer, then, you know, how are you supposed to play on anything else? In past streams, I have complained. I will admit, I have complained when games do difficulty settings with no kind of, you know, reward, right, for playing on those settings. But I'm gonna give Halo the exception to that rule because it's just so good, right? It's just so good. And I think many of you will agree with me. There is nothing like the Halo games. There's absolutely nothing like the original trilogy. It's just really special, right? It's unlike any gaming experience I have ever, you know, experienced. So without further ado, we're just going to get started. 2 minutes in, and we haven't actually started playing. But unlike my Dark Souls, my Fallout runs, I'm not skipping cutscenes because I have too much respect for them. So here we go.
Cortana, all I need to know is, did we lose them?
I think we both know the answer to that.
We made a blind jump. How did they...
Get here first? The Covenant ships have always been faster. As for tracking us all the way from Reach, at light speed my maneuvering options were limited.
We were running dark, yes?
Until we decelerated, no one could have missed the hole we tore in subspace. They were waiting for us on the far side of the planet.
So, where do we stand?
Our fighters are mopping up the last of their recon picket now, nothing serious. But I've isolated approach signatures for multiple CCS-class battle groups. Make it 3 capital ships per group. And in about 90 seconds, they'll be all over us.
Well, that's it then. Bring the ship back up to Combat Alert Alpha. I want everyone at their stations.
Everyone, sir?
Everyone. And Cortana.
Hmm?
Let's give our old friends a warm welcome.
I've already begun.
Attention, all combat personnel. Please report to your action station. Fifth platoon, secure airlocks on deck 11. 14th platoon, rendezvous with 22nd Tactical at Bulkhead Charlie 14.
You heard the lady. Move like you got a purpose.
This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill.
Man, we let those dumb bugs out in the middle of nowhere to keep them from getting their filthy claws on Earth. But we stumbled onto something they're so hot for that they're scrambling over each other to get it. Well, I don't care if it's God's own anti-son-of-a-bitch machine or a giant hula hoop. We're not gonna let them have it. What we will let them have is a belly full of lead and a pool of their own blood to drown in. Am I right, Marines?
Sir, yes, sir!
Mm-hmm. Damn right I am. Now move it out. Double time.
Attention all personnel. We are re-engaging the enemy. External and internal contact imminent.
All you greenhorns who wanted to see Covenant up close, this is gonna be your lucky day.
Sir?
Right. Let's thaw him out.
Okay. Bringing low-level systems online. Cracking the case in 30 seconds. He's hot! Blowing the pins in 5!
And there you have it.
Positions Alpha.
First cutscene, so good. I realize now I forgot to mess with the audio, so I'm probably gonna put stuff, let's see, maybe down to 50 and just see how that does. I know that my mic is quiet, so we'll see how all of that sounds. And yes, save audio settings. So I put everything down to 50%, and so hopefully my voice, I don't know, I'm gonna probably rewatch. I like to rewatch my own streams because I'm weird like that. But Iron Skull right there, by the way. But then I'll check then, and you know, maybe this one ends up being not ideal. The first hour of my Halo stream, and then the next one, you know, I'll see how it is, and then I'll readjust as necessary. So yeah, no, these games are very, they're very special to me. I grew up playing them, and you'll notice I'm playing on anniversary graphics. I love this feature of being able to switch back and forth like that. And I know a lot of people complain about the anniversary graphics. I myself really enjoy them, and I don't mind all of the changes, even though thematically it is very different. Like, you can just see how much darker the original game is. And I love the old graphics too, right? I would honestly do a whole separate playthrough, and maybe I will, of just the original graphics, just to have another excuse to replay these games because I love them so much. Yeah, and so for me, the anniversary graphics, I see it as purely a good thing, right? That they remade the game with updated graphics, even if it completely changes some areas and it's not entirely faithful to the original game. It plays the same, it feels the same, but it gives you something more, it gives you something different to look at, right? And for me, that is enough, that is significant enough on its own of a change to warrant a replaying it, right, and giving it another playthrough. And I mean, let's be real, like I've said it a few times, I want any excuse to replay these games. If they re-released these games every year for the rest of my life with a new set of achievements, I would probably buy them and and play them and max out the achievements. I love them that much. No matter how much I play these things, I never get sick of them. So yeah, I love these these little Easter eggs on these boards here. I'm probably going to be pointing stuff like this out for the whole run, but especially in this first mission, they do a lot of these. Lost Calico Cat. Yeah, the Bungie, you know, the original devs, they loved their Easter eggs, and that's one thing I like about 343 taking over the games is that they do a lot of other, you know, they're very supportive of the Easter egg community. What was that button prompt I just had that popped up in the top left? Use terminal. Oh, yeah, no, I actually don't want to do that. I'm not messing with terminals this run. Like, I'll probably... Yeah, and you actually can't mess with it on the old graphics. Another kind of cool thing that they added, but I'm not going to watch all of those because it takes too much time, and I'm not actually that crazy about them. I do like that they come with new achievements, though.
Captain Keyes.
Good to see you, Master Chief. Things aren't going well. Cortana did her best, but we never really had a chance.
That doesn't come with superior battleships against a single Halcyon-class cruiser. With those odds, I'm content with 3, make that 4 kills. Sleep well?
No thanks to your driving, yes.
So you did listen.
Report.
It must have been one of their boarding parties. I'd guess an antimatter charge.
Ma'am, fire control for the main cannon is offline.
Captain, the cannon was my last offensive option.
All right, then. I'm initiating Cole Protocol Article 2. We're abandoning the Autumn. That means you too, Cortana.
While you do what? Go down with the ship?
In a manner of speaking. The object we found, I'm going to try and land the Autumn on it.
With all due respect, sir, this war has enough dead heroes.
I appreciate your concern, Cortana, but it's not up to me. Protocol is clear. Destruction or capture of a shipboard AI is absolutely unacceptable, and that means you're leaving ship. Lock in a selection of emergency landing zones, upload them to my neural lace, and then sort yourself for my transfer.
Aye, aye, sir.
Which is where you come in, Chief. Get Cortana off this ship. Keep her safe from the enemy. If they capture her, they'll learn everything. Force deployment, weapons research, Earth.
I understand.
The Autumn will continue evasive maneuvers until you initiate a landing sequence. Not that you'll listen, but I'd suggest letting my subroutines handle the final approach.
Excellent work, Cortana. Thank you. Are you ready?
Yank me.
Good luck, Master Chief.
Your architecture isn't much different from the Autumn's.
Don't get any funny ideas.
I don't keep it loaded, so you'll have to find ammo as you go.
I don't keep it loaded, even though we are on a military vessel. That is interesting. So yeah, no, I'm gonna probably cut the stream after this episode and just like watch my own stream and check the audio, because I really wish there was a way to make cutscenes louder, like if that was an option in the settings, and to make the actual gameplay quieter, right? Because it's probably going to be a really quiet cutscene, even though I'm not giving any commentary or anything. I'm just respecting the, you know, original art, the intended purpose, which is just to watch it, because I love these cutscenes. But it's probably going to be really quiet, unfortunately. I don't think there's an option. I don't think there's going to be an option to make the cutscenes louder, while the gameplay, keeping the gameplay nice and quiet so that my voice still comes through, unfortunately. Maybe in the future, once this channel really takes off, maybe we'll get some better technology and we'll learn more about these things so that we can be better. But for now, you work with what you got. You got to get started somewhere. And probably not great that I'm like front loading so many of my favorites on this channel. But I don't know. I mean, there's no reason I can't do what if I want to do a yearly playthrough of these games? I mean, I could do that. Like, there's no stopping me, right? So and maybe it just gets like better quality every year that I do this. So I'm being kind of a noob right now. I'm noticing that I pretty much immediately ran out of ammo for my for my pistol, and so I should probably be a little more strategic about how I use this. Of course, right now it's all I have, so I kind of have to use it. But yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit rusty at the start, not gonna lie. I don't think I have any grenades at this point in the game, which is unfortunate. And the plasma pistol is maybe one of the most underrated weapons in this game, because it's got so much utility. And I'll probably end up picking that up once I inevitably run out of ammo with everything. Oh, there's some grenades. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I'm noticing right now I'm like really bad. I'm just getting stuck on geometry and not effectively killing everything. Wow. Down to 1 health already. Legendary is no joke in these games, dude. Yeah, I definitely need a plasma pistol, and I need to start popping the shields off of these elites, because that's the way to go. I actually do think that this is a fairly challenging mission to start out the game, because it's got so many of these tight corridors and you're not able to, move around a whole lot. So yeah, this is a pretty tough one. And when you've got these elites, like multiple of them backing each other up, it's tough, right? Because like you don't want to let them take cover for so long that they get their shield back. Where'd he go? Did he back out like all the way over here? Oh, there he is. Yeah, so I think it's actually kind of a tough one, because when we get a little bit further into the game, I tend to, because I've just played these games so many times, I tend to use some pro speedrunning strats, let's just say that, and I end up skipping a lot of the content. I think maybe because I'm on stream, I'll probably take my time a little bit more. There's no reason to rush, and I enjoy playthroughs of this game so much that I probably won't feel the need to rush through it. I probably actually am going to want to savor it. Maybe I'll like kill everything. Maybe I'll make it into kind of a genocide run. I don't know. Yeah, no, whatever is the most thoroughly enjoyable way to play is what I'm gonna do. I cannot say enough good things about the Halo trilogy. And I'm talking specifically about the trilogy. I love ODST and I also love Reach. But they are what they are. They're kind of offshoots of the main event, right? And the main event obviously being the OG trilogy. I kept all the skulls off, by the way. You probably saw my settings at the beginning of the stream. I'm just doing a kind of natural legendary run. Maybe I'll do some crazier runs with some skulls in the future, but for now, just a very basic legendary run, because that's honestly probably the way that I enjoy these games the most. Is just with that normal, very vanilla kind of legendary run. And I think I'll probably even do the Halo 2 on legendary, even though it's very busted with, sniper jackals in particular. I think most other things are fairly balanced in Halo 2, aside from maybe elites wasting you in like 2 seconds with their firing faster than the speed of light with their plasma rifles. But yeah, no, but getting back to what I was talking about with like the original trilogy very much feels like the main event, and everything else is kind of icing on the cake. Like, I love more Halo. Even when it's like, I mean, I don't really count the 343 games as Halo games, unfortunately. I think they're kind of bad. I think Halo 4 and 5 are just kind of bad, which is a real shame, right? I don't think that any developer could have really replicated what Bungie has done here. I mean, there's like, if it's kind of like if you know, you know, right? Maybe it's also some nostalgia goggles talking, because I did grow up with these. So there's a little bit of that I need to recognize. But I just don't think that any other series has nailed like the kind of atmosphere and plot and characters. I like, these games just feel so mature and also just realistic without being overly gory or whatever. Like it's so hard to describe why these games are so good. Like, I mean, because there's so much going on here that would honestly take me like several video essays to really get into all of it. It's like, I mean, it's like I'm just gonna be simping for these games for these entire playthroughs, right? Because I think they're like, honestly, in their own way, they're kind of perfect, even though there's obviously, you know, the library, which nobody likes playing through, but even then, the library was going for a very specific tone that I think it nailed, right? And I think these games just consistently do that, where it's so tonally consistent throughout all three of the original trilogy games, right? Even when they had to do weird stuff, like, you know, Cortana discovering, you know, halfway into the game, like, oh, the monitor gets around by using these teleportation grids, and it's like, oh, well, why haven't we been using that the whole game, right? A little bit of plot inconsistency. Like, it's the rest of the game is so good, like, little things like that don't detract from the experience, right? In my opinion. I think the flaws in these games are so small in comparison to what the game does right. And I don't think that any other game really comes close to doing what Halo does, if that makes sense. So yeah, and I think that it's this like this perfect harmony of sound design, music, characters, voice acting. Like, it all just comes together so well. Gameplay is like pretty much perfect in my opinion. The like all of the decisions that they made, just like, they just make so much sense. Like, and I think that there's a few people, if you look back at the kind of, right, the making of documentaries of these games, it kind of starts to make sense when you see how Bungie like talks about their game. You can kind of see why this studio was able to do what they were able to do, because other studios don't talk about their games like Bungie does. They're like very candid and honest about like what they were going for and how hard they worked on these games. And that's something that has actually been a point of kind of controversy with Bungie's work culture, right? Over the years, they're like crazy. I was just watching a video about that, about how they crunch to get things done, or they used to anyway. I don't know if it's still like that. I think it's probably gotten a little better. But they would work off of these insanely compressed timelines, and they ended up having to, you know, cut a lot of content from the games, and you know, the games kind of come together in the last couple of months, right? And especially with Halo 2, which is most likely the reason that the difficulty feels so weird. The legendary difficulty is so kind of busted in that game. But yeah, Bungie, there's like no other studio that I can think of that really has that kind of passion and that shared vision and drive for what the final product would be, right? So yeah, I think playing through the games and then watching those kind of documentaries about how they're made, it's it very much it kind of shows you like, oh, this is why the Halo games are really special. And I like to think that I would say that if I didn't grow up with them. I don't know, maybe I wouldn't. 'Cause I know everybody's got those games like that where it's like, this is what I grew up playing, and kind of just for that reason alone, I like, I love these games. Like, people are like that with Nintendo games sometimes and whatever. I was like definitely way too young to be playing Halo as well. I think I was like 6 when I started playing these, so I got indoctrinated. I drank the Halo Kool-Aid very young.
The life pods are launching. We should hurry.
And you can see like even the anniversary graphics are still looking kind of weird, kind of dated at this point. Maybe it's time for a new Halo CE anniversary. Because I remember when this anniversary came out, I think I was sophomore in high school or something.
Blast doors closing.
I don't know. It was, I think it was 2011.
We have to use the ship
And
access ways. Follow the
I just remember being so freaking excited to get home and play this. I think it was only like $40 for the anniversary. And it also came with like some, I don't know, like some multiplayer maps too for Halo 3 or Reach or something that just ended up also being amazing. Like, I don't know. That was a great time to be a gamer. The early 2000s into maybe the early 2010s. I think I talked about this a little bit on my Dark Souls stream. Like, games just used to be, they were just kind of built different back in the day. And nowadays, you really couldn't get something like this that would be up to modern quality standards, without it taking years and years to develop, because now everything has to be, it's got to all have the best graphics and whatever. And the gameplay kind of starts to come second. And also, I feel like a lot of other things start to get... we're compromising on a lot of other things, too, when we're prioritizing graphics, right? Because that really is what it is. That's why these games are all taking up so much space on our hard drives, is because we're expecting them to look like practically photorealistic. I don't know when that started. Like... I think it was at some point during the 360 era when it's like we just started pushing for games to look so good. Maybe it was like when Crysis came out or something. I don't know. Call of Duty or whatever. Like, games just have to look like incredible nowadays. Even though that means that the development timelines are going to be massive. And it's not to say like games suck now. Like, I know I'm gonna sound like kind of a boomer sometimes when I'm talking about games, because I was around for, I think, what a lot of people consider the golden age of gaming, that 360 era, right? When it was like, I think it was like the years like 2008, around that time frame, when we were just getting banger after banger after banger. And it seemed like the video game industry could do no wrong. I mean, it was like, of course there was like some stinkers, right? But it was not like how it is nowadays, where the AAA games, like, you're almost kind of expecting them to be busted on release, and a lot of people have talked about this. But and then you get like several years where they're patching, and it's like, okay, it honestly makes more sense to just not buy the game when it comes out, and then a couple years down the line when it's like $20, right? Because it had a horrible release, so of course it's gonna go like plummet in what it's selling for. It just makes more sense to wait, because it's gonna be a cheaper and better game a couple years down the line, because they're gonna fix a lot of stuff. That's what happened with Cyberpunk. I don't remember when that game came out. Oh, I hope I didn't get stuck there. And Cyberpunk is honestly another one I'm probably going to end up playing on stream, because that's another one that I love, that my buddy D Money got me into. One of the few games that came out in this era that I can honestly say, this era, indeed, this era, it doesn't matter. One of the few modern games that I can honestly say is one of my absolute favorites. I love Cyberpunk. What was I saying? Oh yeah, one of those examples where it just got so good, but it took a couple years after it was released for them to fix a lot of stuff. And even when, even at that point, when I was playing it a few years after release, it was still super janky and busted. But it was worth it, because it was like super, super good. So anyway, getting back to talking about Halo. Yeah, they just don't make them like this anymore, in my opinion. And I think there's, even beyond graphical fidelity, right? I think there's, the expectations for games are just too high now, where developers feel like they need to do everything with a single game, right? Instead of having just a really solid, tight 5-hour to 10-hour experience, And I think that's where we're starting to see a lot of indie developers taking center stage, right? Oh, I'm getting deep with this one. Oh, well, I'm talking about Halo. You know my history with Halo, right? Okay, I'm talking to Soy Maiden about my stream.
Now would be a very good time to leave.
Yeah, you'll just have to watch it. I was being really quiet because there was a cutscene playing, and I explained earlier I have a lot of respect for the Halo cutscenes. I am indeed. I just finished that yesterday.
Chief, can you hear me? At last. Are you all right?
Yeah, I was explaining to Soy Maiden that I just finished my Dark Souls playthrough yesterday, and I kind of blew through the back half of that game because I was honestly, I get a little sick of it after I get through the, after you get to Ornstein and Smo, it's just not as great anymore. So I kind of blasted through that back half as quick as I could so that I could start playing Halo, because I really, really wanted to stream Halo. And also, shout out to my Dark Souls stream. Go check that out if you haven't already. And then I played Fallout New Vegas before that. So, stream on Twitch, put it on YouTube. You know how it is. But yeah, and getting back to like why Halo is so good, right? Because I'm never gonna stop talking about that. The cutscenes are just absolutely goated. I mean, and I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that the Halo cutscenes are probably like the best video game cutscenes. I just don't think that any other developer takes the kind of time to write and direct cutscenes in video games like Halo does. I mean, they are just so good. They're like, wow, these guys are, what is going on? These guys are following me? I don't remember that. I think I usually just, wow, I might die here. That's 2 red elites right behind me. Jeez, I don't remember these guys following me. Yeah, I don't think that any other dev team takes the time on their cutscenes like Halo does. They're just absolutely like perfectly paced. It feels like you're watching a movie. Even though the graphics aren't like great, right? They're older graphics. I still think that the pacing and the tone is just like basically perfect in these cutscenes. And if you splice them all together, with each Halo game, it's like each Halo game you've got a full-length movie that you're basically watching in between levels. And the cutscenes kind of serve this purpose of being like kind of a reward for beating each level. And they really do a good job of framing the gameplay, right? So that it feels like something bigger than just a game, you know? Really, really amazing stuff, what they do with the cutscenes in these games, like where you kind of feel their presence even when you're just blowing through each of the levels, right? Running and gunning the whole time. It really frames the story well. So, yeah, no, story in these games, top notch, right? It's not super complex either. And that's another thing that I think, like, devs just will get wrong. Like, I think they cram too much into their games. And we end up sacrificing quality for quantity when we have all these characters that, let's be real, does anybody even know or care about? Like, I don't know. I think Dark Souls, actually the reason that Dark Souls became so popular is because it prioritized gameplay and quality over quantity, which is just something that you don't see as much nowadays with games, right? Games have to be like massive, and they have to occupy hundreds of hours of your time, and it ends up just being kind of messy, like, and sloppy with most games, I think. There's some RPGs that I think do pull that off. I do think the CD Projekt Red RPGs pull that off. Cyberpunk and Witcher 3 both did a great job with that. Where I felt like I was dumping tons of time into it, but I didn't feel like my time was being disrespected. And I think a lot of devs will just put content in games as filler so that you can keep playing, which is fine if the core experience is incredible. Like in Skyrim, you know, you've got amazing quests and NPCs and music and and all that. Skyrim is another very special game that I'll probably end up streaming at some point. But with that game, the Radiant quests are and by radiant, I just mean like infinitely repeatable, right? Those kind of quests that just are a time sink, they're forgivable because the core experience of Skyrim is incredible. So you can forgive a lot of the fluff in that game. But that's the problem with a lot of other games, is like the whole game feels like fluff. Have I still not gotten a checkpoint, by the way? I'm gonna be really annoyed if this encounter happens and then I have to and I die at some point and go back to the start of the mission. It seems like I'm getting a really stingy checkpoint run right now. And this mission, I'll be honest, it's not my favorite. Like, I think it's very much a classic Halo mission. I think that it's a little bit weaker, though, than the other missions at the start of this game. Just because it feels like a lot of running around in a forest. But it does good things for the narrative, so I think it's a good mission. It's just not my favorite. Don't even get me started with the Marines, yo. They're great. The dialogue, like, I mean, Bungie recorded thousands of lines for these Marines to say. And the problem with the legendary run is they all die really fast, so you never end up actually hearing them. But yeah, Marines are awesome. I love when games give you allies to work with that actually seem effective, and Marines can sometimes be that. I think that Halo 2 actually, spoiler alert, when you play as the Arbiter, right, and you're fighting alongside the Covenant, I think the elites that you fight alongside actually feel a lot better to play with, because they actually stand some chance of surviving in tough combat encounters because of their shields. They're just a lot tougher. So it just feels awesome to play alongside elites. Like, I think elites are like the coolest. I think they're the coolest ever. I've always thought that. But yeah, I mean, more things that Halo nailed: the encounters with the Covenant faction are amazing. Like, the pace of combat just feels awesome. Like, mopping up the grunts, right? The grunts are kind of silly comedic relief, but they're a real part of pretty much every Covenant unit that you fight, and it feels good to pick them off and then be able to focus down the elites, right? And the elites AI, and honestly all the AI, the enemy AI in Halo are really smart too. Like, you notice elites are like constantly moving and dodging around, and their weapons are not hit scanned, so it feels very fair to fight them, even though they're like a solid, challenging enemy. And a lot of other shooters have that problem where the encounters don't feel great because you can't be super mobile, because you're just going to get hit scanned to death immediately. Whereas in the Halo games, you're kind of encouraged to move around and not just sit tight and take cover all the time, right? So, because like Master Chief's got shields, right? And you're not just gonna get killed in 2 seconds in most scenarios. So it feels like combat is a little more fluid and strategic, as opposed to just sitting in cover and popping out every now and then to shoot something. And with the elites energy shields, it actually feels kind of you kind of feel a sense of urgency to kill them as fast as possible and not let them take cover to recharge those shields, because that means you've just wasted ammo. So yeah, encounter design, excellent, absolutely excellent in these games. It was Jamie Griesmer, like one of the devs in the OG Halo games, who said you're like something to the effect of, like, in one of those documentaries, it's like a super famous thing that he said, you're focusing on nailing 30 seconds of fun, and then you kind of you kind of try to replicate that throughout the whole game. And that's what he's referring to as basically the gameplay loop, right? Like, what's the gameplay loop that you want players to enjoy and have fun with and be able to keep enjoying for the whole course of the game, right? And for Halo, it comes in the form of these, like, most of the time fighting these Covenant units and deciding which to prioritize, right? Probably killing the weaker stuff first, and then focusing down like the elites or whatever, and just ends up feeling really good pretty much the whole game. Like, I don't think I ever get tired of fighting the Covenant. The Flood can be a little annoying, but even the Flood, like, I think their combat encounters are really great too. Their AI is a little dumber, but it makes sense because it's like you're fighting this horde of zombies. So the gameplay, like, it shifts massively when you're fighting the Flood, which is cool. So it ends up actually adding a little bit of diversity to the combat later in the game. And, you know, the Flood, I mean, one of, like, the greatest plot twists in gaming, right? That, and I would honestly say Halo 2 opening up the story to the Covenant. Like, I guess, like, looking back at the old right, like the documentaries of, like, Bungie talking about these games, they mentioned that was like a huge risk, and people, they did not know what the response would be like from the community to suddenly it's like, oh, you're playing as the dudes you've been killing for a game and, you know, some change. Like, how are players going to respond to that? But I think it ended up just being a great move. Halo suddenly went from a fairly simple story to something like much more complex, right? And it just ended up like absolutely like blowing the doors open, so to speak, to the Covenant faction, right? And you're suddenly, like, you're learning way more about them and getting their perspective. Amazing. And Halo 2, I would say, is probably my favorite campaign of all time in any game. Like, I just think that campaign rocks. I know there's an elite back there. Come on, dude. There we go. Yeah, as much as I love Halo 1 and Halo 3, I think Halo 2 did something really special with that campaign. In terms of, like, the multiplayer, I would say Halo 3 is probably my favorite. And Halo 1 probably nails the atmosphere the best. I think each of the games does something different, and does something the best, right? And all three games, they feel super, like, different gameplay wise for me, but also very cohesive. Like, they kind of all came out at different times in the I don't know, the course of gaming history. I don't know, like, spanning two different generations of consoles. But, like, Halo 1 coming out at the beginning of the original Xbox lifespan, and then Halo 2 coming out more towards the end of it. So, like, technically you can tell, like, it's a lot more advanced, right? And then Halo 3 just coming out when the 360 came out. So, like, you've got different kind of technical capabilities of each game, and the kind of art design changing a little bit between each one too, which is really cool, but also all of it staying, like, very consistent and faithful to, I think, Bungie's vision of the Halo games. Really, really cool to, like, see the series change as with titles, right? Whereas, like, a lot of other games, they'll stay really consistent, and maybe, I don't know, maybe also kind of safe in that way between titles, right? Like another one of my favorites, Mass Effect. I think all 3 Mass Effect games look fairly similar to each other, and I wouldn't say that about Halo. I think the Halo games look really different across every title. And then of course you've got ODST and Reach looking like their own, right? Going off completely in their own directions stylistically, right? With their art design. Really, really cool that Bungie is just such like a brave studio. Like it seems like they're always trying new stuff. And then, and at least with the Halo games executing super well. I remember, gosh, I'm like reaching back in my memory. And it was just such a huge bummer when they like stepped away from the Halo games, right? And then they started working on Destiny, and like the world was like holding its breath, right? When we were all waiting for Destiny. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Destiny was like, I think Destiny was like one of the most hyped up games I literally like ever remember hearing about. And I was also really excited for it. And then when it came out, I remember just feeling so let down. Like Destiny is cool and it has its moments, but man, compared to Halo, Destiny feels like I'm kind of playing a demo to a game as opposed to an actual fully realized vision of a game. I hate to say it, but like Destiny is so shallow compared to Halo. The gameplay loop feels very repetitive. It feels like I'm shooting hordes of mindless enemies that, even though there's like technically 3 different factions, they all feel exactly the same to fight. And that just really bummed me out. Like there's so many things about Destiny that are cool, but also just a massive bummer. Coming from the Halo games, right? With the expectations that like Bungie is gonna make like the next coolest thing ever. I just think that I think that Destiny was maybe not a fully realized vision. I don't know. I don't know. Like clearly they put a ton of work into it and it looks great, right? Destiny games are beautiful. And they've got some cool things about them. Like I think some of the music is cool, but a lot of it is just does not feel great. I'm going to do the thing where I just kill all the Marines because, and I'm only gonna do that for this mission because I'm not as big a fan of this mission. Because it's just, like these holdout sections where you're just trying to save Marines. There's no other Halo mission that's like that. And I think it's kind of a drag compared to the other Halo missions where you're kind of, it feels like you're constantly blowing through new areas. Even if some of that, map geometry is very repetitive at times. I mean, this is not a perfect game, I'm going to admit that. There's definitely flaws, and you can see where Bungie was a little bit pressed for time. I think they ended up making really efficient use of their resources, like being able to stretch the campaign out by reusing level design and everything. I think they did it in really clever ways, because even though you are playing through a lot of the same geometry, the levels feel completely different. It's not like, so I think they were justified in how they reused assets, which is not always the case with developers, obviously. I don't think it was a laziness thing on Bungie's part, right? I think it was more just we're on a serious timeline and we need to make the best use of our time possible. I'm always going to give Bungie the benefit of the doubt. I love Bungie. Alright. Trying to kill all these Marines, and they know what I've done. they somehow know that I've killed all those other Marines through radio chatter or something. So we're coming in hot with these guys already angry at us. Okay.
No survivors, Master Chief.
No survivors. Thank you. Checkpoint. Amazing. And yeah, I like to save the last area of this mission. Well, you can take these areas in any order you want, but I think that the next area is kind of the best one. Because you've got some like rocks to work with that make for kind of an interesting encounter.
I picked up reports that the Covenant
You got all these boulders, right, creating these different paths.
The good news is the captain's still alive.
And yeah, no, I just like this encounter. And also it kind of, I think the level design kind of suggests that you go in the order that I've gone. So there's that. I think it naturally kind of leads you into this direction. I just got a checkpoint, so I am going to check the chat because I've got Ratjar. Yo, streamer, this a genocide run? It's not a genocide run. I was explaining earlier that I don't like this level as much, and so I kind of blow through it. And the reason that I'm killing all these Marines is because each of these encounters, how much time each encounter takes depends on if the Marines are alive or not, because the goal of the mission is to save the Marines. So if you kill them, each encounter just ends, right? And so you can expedite this level by just killing all the Marines. Ooh, that guy's got a sniper. Yeah, I need that. I hope he didn't just fall off. Oh man. Oh, there it is. Cool. Yeah, so weirdly it just makes sense to kill them in this mission. And I'm actually not going to hang out on top of this cliff face for too much longer because it's actually not the best holdout spot. Like this over there where that drop pod is actually, I think, much better. What else? What else? I've been giving a lot of thoughts. I've been ranting and going on tangents. I've been completely off track for this entire stream because I have so many thoughts. Halo just stirs up like all of my neurons. My two neurons start rubbing together and creating thoughts when I play Halo. Because, you know, it activates the emotions. The emotions activate the thoughts, right? It's a cyclical, it's a feedback loop of feelings and thoughts and also behaviors, right? Because I'm playing the game. So activating these deep-rooted neural pathways. Very, very nostalgic while I play these games. I like to replay them even when I don't necessarily have a reason. And also, I like to replay them with people. Like, I like to shepherd people into the Halo games whenever I can. So I've replayed them with friends over the years. And Ratjar, we can do, if you want to, we can do a co-op stream at some point. Maybe when I finish my solo run. Which, honestly, this solo run's probably going to go really fast because I do use some shortcuts, and I tend to just run and gun a lot while I'm playing these. I was explaining earlier that I might go a little slower for this run through because it's a stream and I'm taking more time to kind of enjoy the experience. Smell the roses, if you will. Yeah, there's also sniper ammo down here, so it's a really nice spot to come hang out. Sniper is very effective against the elites. And the elites are the main, let's be real, they're the main threat whenever you're walking into an encounter in this game. So you're going to see a lot of pro sniping on my part. Checkpoint done. And then you can use your pistol to pick off the grunts. The pistol's actually not the best against the elites because their energy shields really soak up the the ballistic rounds, right? And so unless you've got really high caliber rounds like the sniper, which kind of blows through their shield in one shot like that, normally energy weapons are actually what you'd prefer to use on the elites. But with the 2 weapon carry limit, another checkpoint, very nice. With the 2 weapon carry limit, you have to actually make a decision on which guns you're gonna take with you, which I think is fantastic. I think that was such a good move on Bungie's part when they were making design decisions for these games. You're making choices, even though it's a very linear like game. You're still making choices all the time, and those choices are kind of the spice of life, aren't they? What is a game that doesn't let you make choices? I mean, really. Okay, so I've got 1 shot left. Is this the last guy? Oh, that's a little bit, I think I might be out of my max effective range for this pistol. This guy is really far away. I can go ahead and ditch my sniper now. Alright, Ratchar, what do you have to say? What's the reward for saving the Marines? Also, rank the Halo games best to worst. Oh man, that's a great question. So there's no reward for saving the Marines. You just get Cortana's happy dialogue about, oh, you know, come pick up some survivors, and then the dropship comes in, and then you have to wait for that too. So it's honestly kind of more of a, it's more of a punishment for saving the Marines. Except when you're first playing the game. I will say, when you're first playing the game, I like this mission, and I think it makes more sense. And also, I explained earlier, I'm going to be completely silent for these cutscenes because, you know, respect.
Once we get inside the ship, I should be able to lock on to the tracking signal from Captain Key's neural implants.
Okay, and then I'm gonna answer this other question from Ratchar. Rank the Halo games worst to best, which is really hard because, well, it's not hard. Ranking the original trilogy is hard because all 3 games have different things that they do better with than the other ones in the original trilogy. So I'll start with the easy ones to rank, which is, it's gonna be, the worst is definitely between Halo 4 and 5. I think most people would probably say Halo 5 is the worst. Honestly, I think it's hard for me to make that decision because I don't like either one. I think they both suck. I think Halo 5 tried more new things. So, you know, maybe some brownie points there. I think Halo 4 is so boring that I just have absolutely no desire to ever play that game again. I think it fell completely flat. And I think Halo 5 actually probably had some more cool moments. Who knows? Maybe someday I'll stream Halo 5 if I'm really running out of material. I don't know. Or if you just want something entertaining that is not actually a good game, in my opinion. I think Halo 4 and 5 are kind of probably equally bad. And then after that is probably Halo Infinite. I gotta be honest, I haven't even finished Halo Infinite. It's something I was thinking about streaming. Halo Infinite seems cool. They added a lot of new things, but they also got back to some of the identity of the original Halo games, which is really nice. So I'll probably play that at some point. I think that one is definitely better than Halo 4 and 5, just based on the hour or so that I played of it. So that's the 343 games out of the way. I'm not going to rank Halo Wars or the mobile games or whatever, because those aren't, let's be real, those aren't actually Halo games. They're like a completely different genre, and they're, you know, whatever. I don't know. I've heard they're okay, but so Halo 4, 5, then Halo Infinite, and then it's gonna be between ODST and Reach. And I'm purposefully not playing the game right now while I think about this, because there's a lot of thoughts to be had when you're doing this rank order. So this is the only game where you respect the cutscenes and dialogue. Yes, Ratjar, it is. I was explaining earlier, I don't think any other game does cutscenes as well as the Halo games. I think they're pretty much perfect. They're super cinematic, and they frame the game's story very well. And I think it's kind of just, it's not as complete of an experience, of a gameplay experience in the Halo games when you're just skipping the cutscenes, whereas I don't feel that way about other games. Pretty much almost every other game, I can skip the cutscene and I feel like it's whatever. It doesn't really detract from the overall experience. So, whereas I think it's a core part of the Halo experience. So getting back to it, Halo 4, 5, then Halo Infinite, then it's going to be between ODST and Reach. And I think most people would say Reach is the better of the two. I kind of disagree with that, and I think that's kind of a hot take. I think ODST is a really interesting Halo experience that's unlike any other. They really tried a lot of new things with ODST, and it just doesn't feel a lot like other Halo games. So it's really hard for me to pick between those two, but I would say I probably enjoyed Halo ODST for what it is. Probably a little more than Reach. Reach definitely had some highs. I think Reach also had some lows, though. And I think ODST was maybe a more consistent experience throughout. I think ODST is probably better of those two. So then it comes down to the original trilogy, which is extremely hard to rank the original trilogy because all three are excellent. I think all three are some of the best games ever made. I'm not exaggerating. Like, I don't even think that's a hot take. I think the original trilogy is just some of the best games ever made. If I were to make a top 10 list, I would put all three in there, but I don't think that's fair when you're making a top 10 list. I think generally it's better to just pick one of each franchise. So, breaking it down, Halo 3, 2, 1, what they did best. Halo 1, I think, nailed the atmosphere better than pretty much any other game ever. And so, you know, you've got to consider that. It also started the series so strong, and it was, considering, like, the context of when it came out, it was a system seller, right? You can't say that about a whole lot of games that, I mean, Halo CE carried the Xbox brand on its back, right? We would not have Xbox today without Halo. So, man, that makes it really tough to rank because I wouldn't say that it's probably the best of the original trilogy. But we'll get to that in a second. So, then moving on to Halo 2, I think it did the story better than any of the other two, right? I think that the decision to let you play as the Arbiter and open up the Covenant, right, in that way and give you their perspective was amazing. I think it was perfectly paced. I think all three of the original trilogy actually had, like, pacing-wise, I think they were all pretty perfect. But I do think Halo 2 had the best story. So I'm going to give it to Halo 2 there. And the hype for Halo 2 was also unbelievable. It was one of the most hyped games of all time. So a lot to consider there. It also kind of carried, again, Halo 2 kind of carried Xbox Live on its back, right? Man, and another thing I didn't mention about Halo CE, there's so much to talk about with these games. Halo CE kind of carried the couch co-op experience for consoles on its back. At the time, there was nothing like it at the time on consoles that you could set up a LAN party with your friends, hook your Xboxes together, and play, 4v4 or whatever. I don't know if maybe even 8v8. I think you could play 8v8 too, on Halo 1. So yeah, Halo 2 story and Xbox Live, Halo 1 atmosphere, and it basically carried the original Xbox on its back, and the LAN parties and whatever cultural sensations, right? Both of those games. And then Halo 3 comes in, and this is so ridiculous. The back half of this stream is turning into like a review of the Halo games, but I don't care. I have a lot of thoughts. So Halo 3 comes in and introduces, I mean, first off, I don't think it came out right when the 360 came out. I think it was like a year or two after. I don't remember. So I don't think it was necessarily a system seller, but it's what, again, it's like a lot of the reason people bought Xbox 360s is because we know, spoiler alert, the end of Halo 2 was setting up for Halo 3. So everybody knows when they're buying a 360, like, oh yeah, Halo 3 is going to come out. I need to have a 360. What Halo 3 did super well, it introduced a ton of new features for multiplayer, file share, right? Matchmaking was so streamlined. It was amazing. Like, Ratjar, you remember the multiplayer experience with Halo 3. It was an absolute sensation. I think Halo 3 did multiplayer the best. And it was a great conclusion to the series. Story-wise, I think it was actually probably maybe the weaker story of the three. Still an incredible campaign. So if I was being objective with ranking the three games, you probably have to say Halo 3 was the best because it just did so much with that game. And then you'd probably say Halo 2 came in after that just because, it carried Xbox Live. It had an incredible story, right? Halo 2 was amazing, even though it was definitely the most crunched development timeline of the three, and the difficulty for the campaign was not balanced for Legendary. And then Halo 1, right? I mean, still like incredible, but it just didn't have as many features as the other two. And it was just a more simple, straightforward experience. So probably 3, 2, 1 is the objective way to rank those. But if I was ranking them, I might actually put Halo 2 as my favorite. And then it would be really hard to decide between Halo 1 and 3. Because oh, there's the soy dog. Stop. I'm talking about something important. This is very important, soy dog. So each game was better than the last, says Ratjar. I would say so, yeah, if you're being objective about it. But if giving my personal opinion, I think Halo 2 is probably the best. And then it's really tough to decide between 3 and 1 because I have emotional connections to those games in different ways. Like, we just had so much fun playing multiplayer with Halo 3, but then I also grew up as a child from 6 years old playing Halo 1. And it was just, they're all sensational. So I don't know. I might put Halo 3 after Halo 2 and then maybe Halo 1 as last, unfortunately. Just because it just doesn't offer as much in terms of features, right? Because of the technical limitations of the time. So that's probably how I would rank them. I don't know. I have so many thoughts about the original trilogy. It just, every time I think about them, there's like new things that I'm like, oh yeah, they did this and this and this. So if I were to start a YouTube channel, I would totally make a video like that, reviewing them and comparing them, because I have a lot of thoughts. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this stream up, and I'll probably be back in a few minutes. I'm going to check the audio and just see how I think it sounds, and then probably get back on stream. So, yes, the dog was barking. Yes, the dog was kind of going nuts for a second. I don't know. Maybe there's a cat outside. What about Halo 4? So I talked about Halo 4 earlier. I think it sucks. I think Halo 4 and 5 both suck, and they're probably equally bad. I think Halo 5 is better just because it had more to offer than Halo 4. That's what I think about that. And then ODST and Reach are amazing games, but they're somewhere in the middle between the trilogy and the 343 games. So those are my thoughts in a nutshell. I'm going to hop off stream and then get back on real quick. So Twitch, YouTube, give me a like, sub, comment, whatever. And we're getting on playing one of my favorite games of all time. So see you in a sec.